My name is George Boston Rhymes, and this is kvci.blogspot.com. Those acronyms mean keeping Valdosta citizens informed, and here on YouTube I intend to inform the world. If I could go to foreign nations and defend this country against both foreign and domestic enemies, then surely I should be able to stand up and speak truth to power here in the homeland of the United States of America on behalf of myself, my children, my friends, my neighbors, and in some cases even my enemies. Today I want to talk to you about right here in front of the Lowndes County Courthouse. A few days ago, 125 people gathered right here concerning the death of a 17-year-old student at Lowndes County High School. The mother, the father, the sister, the brothers, they all came and stood because there was questions about the manner in which he died. We don't know what happened in that case, but what we have to wake up to today is how our religious leaders, listen please, we must look at our religious leaders and ask the question, why weren't they here on an issue that could have been blown to heights that may not have been in the best interest of our beloved city and county? When we look out today in Valdosta, we have all these churches. Today is Sunday morning, and these churches will be filled. And some churches yesterday with the Seventh-day Adventists was filled. And some of the Jews in Judaism on the Sabbath, they filled these temples. And the Muslims under Islam, and WD side of my house, and Louis Farrakhan, and the followers of Buddha, and the followers of other religious sects that we don't even know about. They all say they love the God of creation. Just wearing a robe, professing to be a follower of Jesus Christ, or any of these words does not make us any better than the little man on the street doing crack cocaine. The ones who are committing crimes. The question is, do we really love Jesus? Do we really love Muhammad? Do we really love Buddha? I've studied most of those people and spirits and powerful images of those who seek to do right. But how can all of us go to church on Sunday and ignore the 31 jail deaths in the Valdosta and Lowndes County Jail? The women who live in the old jail under inhumane conditions, yet we say and do nothing. Oak Street Extension, a man was hit by a car over a year ago. It was brought up before our elected officials and nothing was said about it. Where do your religious leaders stand on those issues? Over in Brooks County, 10 people were arrested for exercising their right to vote. They were arrested and charged for voter fraud when we believe they did nothing wrong. And then when the G.B.R. came and allegedly intimidated people, one lady, 80-some years old, was too afraid to go back to the polls and vote. But where was our religious community? Where was Al Sharpton? Where was the civil rights leaders of this dispensation? Where was the little Kings? Where was the little Elijah Muhammads? Where was the little John Browns on the issue? Some people over in Brooks County talked about the G.B.R. agents saying, meet us between, telling their children to meet them between Lowndes County and Brooks County so they could talk to some of their children. Yet you saw nothing in the news media outlets about this. It was as if though it never even happened. I'm not finished yet. Then I went over to Madison, Florida. 9 people arrested over there, allegedly accused of voter fraud. Went back Monday, Tuesday of last week, and the charges were dismissed from all of them but 2. Where was the religious community for the most part? What did you read about that in your Valdosta Daily Times? What did you see about that on your local television station? What has happened to those who used to be the kingpins of the power brokers in this country for right and justice? Yeah, we just met, or I watched. I didn't participate because I no longer play the games of that many play when it comes to Dr. King and Jesus' birthday. A few days ago, we met in hundreds, thousands, perhaps millions of people around this nation. He said we was recognizing the work, life, and legacy of Dr. King. But we dipped when it come down to actually being participants of that great man. We dip. Muslims dip. Jews dip. Christians dip. All of us dip. I used to dip, but I stopped the dipping. And to me, dip means to duplicate Dr. King's life and legacy. Imitate on a stage the life of Dr. King. Yeah, imitate, duplicate, and then placate the life and legacy of that great man. But you do no works that give a reflection of that great man's work and his love for his fellow man. So I don't participate in the game plan. Somewhere I read, when you know better, then do better. I'm not finished yet. Over in Willacoochee, Georgia, I received a call about alleged voter fraud over there, wherein they accused the mayor of paying blacks to vote for him. They called the press conference. Press, news media turned their backs. They didn't even show up because they didn't want that reported. But I was on the scene, I reported it, and I put it on YouTube because I believe, like Jesus said, and ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall set and make you free. And so there seemed to be a virus in South Georgia, a virus of an 1860 charter that was displayed in City Hall a few years ago in 2004. And we are home to Moot Air Force Base. Our sons and daughters leave and depart Moody to go overseas, willing to die for this nation, both black and white, Christian, Muslim, Jews, and others. Yet right there in City Hall, the second floor lead in the Judge Edwards courtroom, in 2004, an 1860 disgraceful charter read that the mayor and council shall pass all proper and necessary laws and ordinances for the control of slaves and free people of color, and to control, suppress, and abate all nuisances arriving from hogs, dogs, horses, and other animals straying at large here in Valdosta, Georgia. It seems as if though that mentality is alive when it comes down to the news producers here in South Georgia. So this is why I cut these videos. This is why I do what I do. Because I put my life on the line during the Vietnam era, and I was in Okinawa, Japan, and I watched men come back with their legs blown off, and other injuries. Some came back in body bags, fighting for the rights of those in a Southeast Asian country, yet only to return home to be denied the basic rights of an attorney or public defender that will plead their case in the courts because they are too poor to go out and pay for a lawyer. Men out there in the Lowndes County Jail have been out there for over a year and haven't seen their court-appointed attorney. I was in court a few weeks ago. G.B.R. Jackson. I watched that young man cry in the courtroom, say he didn't do nothing wrong. And I watched 5 black jurors, in my most humble opinion, that looked like they were scared to their knees. I think perhaps Dr. Matthew Richards said it best when he put out a video called A Chorus of Fear. Oh, you don't hear much about that now because they don't want you to know. All you have to do is Google A Chorus of Fear on YouTube and watch the rest of the story. Something strange is happening in our world. So we can dip, we can duplicate, imitate, and placate. Talk about we love Jesus. Talk about we love God if we want to. Keep going to church, giving your hard-earned money to people who don't show up. People are crying out for justice, crying out to be respected and treated as full-fledged citizens of the United States of America. But we sit back and we say nothing. Talk about God don't want you involved in politics. I can't get involved in politics. That ain't my calling. God called somebody else to do that. That sounds good coming from the lips of a slick. But the question remains, who was King David? Who was Moses? Who was Jeremiah? Who was Gideon? Who was Joshua? Who was Elijah? Who was Malcolm X? Who was Bishop Mason? Who was John Brown? And of course, who was Harriet Tubman? And who, better yet, who was Jesus the Christ? They dipped on Jesus. They dipped on Moses. They dipped on Elijah. They dipped on Joshua. They dip, duplicate, imitate, and placate those men and women who gave their best. Mary McLeod Bethune didn't sit down in some back road alley. Harriet Tubman didn't live in fear. The Bible tells us plainly, God did not give us the spirit of fear, but of power, love, and a sound mind. And so people put on a robe like this. They stand in the church, the synagogue, the masses. Look at them as if though they are highly respected religious leaders. Let's take a look at the Bible, although I don't have the Bible with me. I'm a living Bible. You are living Bibles in the same manner that the grass, the trees, the birds, the rabbits are living Bibles because they all have a story to tell. They all have a ministry and a message to preach and a song to sing. So I want to say to you today, when will we wake up? When will we remove our head from the sand like the ostrich bird? 2nd chapter of Joel says, blow ye the trumpet in Zion, sound an alarm in my holy mountains. Let all the inhabitants of the land tremble, for the day of the Lord cometh and is nigh at hand. Yes, the Lord is coming, but the question is, when will our religious leaders stand up as the religious leaders of yesterday? There's a train a-coming. There's a train a-coming. There's a new age coming into view. We are leaving the age of Pisces and the 2 fish. We are now in the age of Aquarius. And the age of Aquarius is the breaking of the water. We all know that water, the ice are melting. Let us know that there's a new level of intelligence coming through our young people. We don't understand it. we think they're crazy. But they are not crazy. They are tired of our crazy ways and our crazy ways of living outside of what God ordained for human beings to be. In the book of Revelations, John, while he was on the Isle of Patmos, talked about beasts coming up out of the sea, and strange looking heads and strange looking eyes, and they did strange things. I was taught under John F. Donaldson, you need to take another look at those beasts, because many of us living today walk around and we duplicate, imitate, and placate the great men of yesteryear. But in truth, we are beasts. We are beasts. We are beasts in human form. Perhaps Jesus said it best. When you see those in jails, and when you see people dying in the jails, when you see people getting hit by a car like on Oak Street Extension, and when you see people like the Quitman 10 standing up for the best of America, when you see people like the Madison 9 standing up for the best in America, when you see the people in Willacoochee standing up for the best in America, when you see the blacks in Douglas and Coffee County standing up because a black man had a noose put around his neck and he was a fireman, and when you see the regular people standing up, but the religious leaders are sitting down. They are sitting down. If Moses would have sat down like the religious leaders of today, water would never have been parted. The children of Israel would never been led into the promised land. Dry bones in the valley would have never been resurrected. Jonah would have never took his trip into Nineveh. And Jesus would have never come through 42 generations to abolish the sins of the world so we could claim this gospel that we're supposed to be preaching today and living by. So the religious leaders of the day will not stand up. They wasn't here. Don't condemn me. Don't criticize me for telling the truth. I got it on video. Just watch it on this channel. Kendrick, Johnson, death. They stood here. TV stations. Religious people wasn't here. The religious leaders wasn't here. The religious teachers wasn't here. And so I want to close this out by saying it's time for a change. What good is the gospel of Jesus Christ if all we can do is go to church, go to mosque and tell people about a heaven too high and a hell too low, and we got to wait to die before we can go there, while our children fill in the jails and prisons? They can't afford an attorney, though they are innocent, and so they plea bargain. I wonder how it feels to know you innocent and you got to sit there and admit to something that you didn't do. That got to be a hell of a way to have to live. Then when you go to the NAACP, the SCLC, and other civil rights organizations, they too dip. They dip. Mainly because there's so many people that are suffering, they can't take on all the issues. This is why the local communities, leaders, got to get rid of this fear. We got to rid ourselves of the fear. Like the Quitman 10 got rid of fear. And for the first time in the history of Quitman in Brooks County, black African Americans dominate the school board. Now black don't make it right, but right always make it right. When you look at the Southern judiciary, no blacks, very few blacks, judges sitting on the bench, if any, in levels of importance. And I have attorneys that come and talk to me. They tell me because they can't talk, I guess because they too are living in fear, or because they think the system will crush them and they won't be able to get a job or make livelihood for their family. Yet, We are sending our sons and daughters to fight for this nation and tell people around the world that we are a free society, that we are a nation of laws. Yeah. But I came to the courthouse today to say to you, or rather to ask you a question. Where were the religious leaders? Where were they? Concerning the deaths, the inhumane conditions. People in the jail stand for over a year. And their court-appointed lawyer don't even come to see them. Won't even say boo. Over 8 months ago, an individual in the jail asked that their public defendant, Jason Kane, be removed from his case. He called Judge Edwards, I think his mother says she called Judge Edwards trying to get him removed because he wasn't doing his job. Nothing happened. That young man now, I'm told, is facing 20 years for a crime he did not commit. And for some reason, I believe him. His mother was on the dialysis machine, had a kidney transplant, had to go through all of this. And she will tell you today that she received no justice. And she did not have an attorney to stand up for her son. It's a sad day, y'all. So don't blame our children for wearing their pants down. Let us look at ourselves as adults. And let us look at the disunity we have among us. I watch all these churches on Sunday morning. I ride around and sometimes I film them. And I watch how beautiful the people are dressed. Fine clothes. Of course, some have jeans. Fine clothes. They look good. They go into church smiling. Some of them, I'm sure, got good jobs. What about those people over here that don't have jobs? What about these people that want to work? I'm not talking about those that don't want to work, but nobody will employ them. Go to Miller Hardware. Go to Home Depot. Go to the city annex. Go to the city and county commissioner's building. Go to the federal building and look around and see who got the best jobs and see who's mostly employed. Now, I know there are people that are not what we call qualified to hold some of these jobs, but there come a time in order to bring things up to an equilibrium, sometimes you have to employ people and train them. Because there are people who are sitting in these positions that have not been trained. Some are sitting in these positions because of who they know, while others are locked out because of who they don't know and who don't know them. I was terminated from Walmart store 2615 over here on Perimeter Road under the heading of inability to perform job. And it was a disgrace. Walmart never trained me, but I did a damn good job, but they didn't train me. Then they terminated me under Hale leadership, store manager of inability to perform job. I served in the armed forces for over 20 years, and a couple of years that in Atlanta before I went in the military. Never been fired from a job of any kind. Top notch, what they call top chef. And I say that with pride. No, that wasn't the problem. The problem was because people don't want professionalism. People play game, they dip. They duplicate, imitate, and placate. But when you come up on the plate of doing what's right and what is righteous, then they do what they always done. They act like their father. They act like their father. Jews came to Jesus in closing. They said to Jesus, "We are the seed of Abraham." And I'm using this to make a statement that if you say you are the seed of Jesus, or any of these great words, I'm using the words of Jesus to the Jews. If you say you are of Abraham's seed, then why don't you do the works of Abraham? If you are about God, then why don't you do the works of God? God let the sun shine on all of us. He is providing a service for us. God don't punk out under pressure. He don't get scared. God give us the water that we drink. God don't get scared. God stand up and he keep giving it to us whether we are righteous or unrighteous, clean or unclean, black or white, in or out, right or wrong. The God of our salvation don't discriminate. He just appreciates all of his children. Don't let anybody tell you in this world that they are colorblind and that they don't see colors. When you hear a person say that, you tell them, I said they're lying. Tell them that they are liars and the truth are not in them. The truth is not in them. God made all different colors and he made them for the beauty of the mind. So God is not colorblind, and neither are we. So let's tell the truth. When you see a white man, see him as a so-called defined white person. You see a black man, define him as a black man. You see a red man, define him as a red man, brown man, and yellow man, but you respect them as equals to you that was created by the one God. Don't let anybody fool you. Black men have been fooled over and over again. But it is indeed time for us to wake up. Because in them fooling us, they fooled and tricked and bamboozled their own people. And now they too need a speedy resurrection, or they could be destroyed before the resurrection comes. This is George Boston Rhymes, doing what I do because it's time for it to be done. Jesus said, and ye shall know the truth, and that the truth shall set and make you free. Bye-bye. We got it. What are the religious leaders concerned about the 31 jail deaths, the inhumane living conditions of the women in the old jail, the complaints that I hear, rats as big as cats, spiders in the jail as it was back in 98 and 88, yet no one seems to care. What world are we living in? What has happened to the church? Where is the power of the church? Where are our religious leaders in Valdosta when it comes to the Valdosta and Lowndes County Jail and the citizens who are housed there? What happened to Judge who lost 105 violations that were identified in June of '97? He gave 2 years for the sheriff and county commissioners to fix the problem. Where is our religious leaders? Why can't we hear from them? We thank them for the outstanding job that they are doing in church on Sunday, Wednesday, and Friday night. But our people are suffering in the court system, the probation areas. Our children are in pain. Should we not understand them? Should not we who say we love Jesus, Muhammad, Elijah Muhammad, Esther, Rod Muhammad, and others, should not we address their needs? Should we not be concerned about the victims of crime? What has happened to our nation? Where are the righteous? Where are the Moses and the Elijahs and the Gideons of this day? Just food for thought. This is kvci.blogspot.com. George Boston Rhymes, just keeping it real. Because in time like this, it must be done. Bye-bye. Gone. Once again, I'm on South Troop Street. I have stood before Valdosta City Council and talked about the problems here on South Troop Street. No sidewalks, no curbing, holes in the road, the ditches metal pipes. Above all, the young man whose wife became ill and emergency vehicle could not even get up to a driveway to get her out in a timely manner. And I must applaud Councilman James Wright on Valdosta City Council for addressing the needs of the people. What I do not understand is how it seems as if though others on council seem unable to understand what Councilman Wright is trying to do in this community. I watch our beautiful elected officials, Councilman Yotes, Councilman Deidre White, who represents this district, I think, Alvin Payton, another black African-American male that we watch sit on the council, Mr. Tim Carroll, Mr. Norton, Mr. Sonny Vickers is another black councilman that sits on the council. But what about the black African-American community? Why is it that when it comes down to us in the South Side, it seems as if though nothing changes? It's not even published in the Valdosta Daily Times to let the people know what the citizens are saying in their beloved community. What are your pastors saying about the conditions that you've seen me brought up? By the way, this is called The Word on the Street. This is 61 videos or DVDs that I produced because I want the people here in Valdosta to know what is going on. I want them to know why very little change in our community. It's because we don't have a news media to report what is going on even at public meetings. It seems as if though the 1860 city charter mentality to suppress, control, and abate the citizens is alive and well. And so I'm going to ask you to get a copy of The Word on the Street. I have 61 DVDs informing you about things that apparently others don't want you to know about. Did you know that the Madison 9 just had charges dropped against all of them except 2 for the alleged voter fraud over in Memphis, where black African Americans were arrested for exercising their rights to get people to vote? Did you read about that? Do you know anything about the beef or what the citizens bring up at city council meetings? I know you don't go. It's very few ministers of the gospel of Jesus Christ be at these meetings. We don't see no Muslims there. A few members from Judaism, but not that many. It's as if though something has happened in our world. It seems like there's a fungus among us. And this fungus that is among us is not working for us. Our children are coming generations, and yet, we send our sons off to foreign wars to die for this country. Talking about freedom of speech, freedom of the press, freedom to worship, freedom, all this freedom that we talk about that we don't even enjoy. They tell us about a nation of laws and how we got a right, equal rights in the court system with no black judges in the southern judiciary for the most part. Now, I don't know. I'm telling you what attorneys tell me off the record. Can you imagine the great racial divide that's still in this country that nobody wants to talk about? You ever thought about this president, President Barack Obama, and how he is criticized in comparison to some of the other 43 all-white presidents that blacks didn't even have a choice? And some of them we couldn't even vote for. We didn't strike out like they're doing. We didn't call them other presidents a Hitler. We didn't call them a devil. We didn't ask them for a birth certificate. We didn't tell them to go back to where they came from. We didn't beline and curse their little children. We didn't do that to them. But look what they're doing to the 44th president of our sons and daughters that's fighting on foreign battlefields, and many have died. So we can go to church, we can go to mosque, we can go to synagogue, we can go to temples, but when will we start going to meet the needs of our young people and coming generations like our grandparents did for us? You know, you've always heard, if you don't use it, you lose it. Well, that's what's happening in this country, especially in the black African American communities. All one has to do is come to Troop Street and look down the street and ask yourself, why do we keep sending the same people back in these high elected positions to sit and look good and treat us like dirt? Don't you think it's time for a change?